The CEO, founder, SEC Unfiltered, Chris Phillips joins us. Good evening, good sir. How are you?
Bro, what's popping, man? I'm feeling like Wolf of Wall Street. I'm so pumped for week one. You want to get a I'm feeling it.
I kind of want to go do
Dude,
some blow
and I know, listen, I know this is LSU, but literally 5 minutes pre-showtime, SEC Unfiltered got that follow from Lane Kiffin on X.
No way!
Got that follow. Got that follow and that retweet from the man himself. So
what did he retweet? What did because I missed it.
We reposted this morning the Nick Saban Verbo commercial, and he just reposted it and was like, "This is so funny," and he followed us. So, yeah, he was like, "No fun allowed." So funny. So he just loves Twitter, man. You know that. I mean, LSU fans know that. He loves Twitter.
Did you see a couple what was it, last week or 2 weeks ago when Brian Kelly trolled him on the Coca-Cola thing?
That was perfect. Yeah.
And look, people think that BK is like so uptight. He tries so hard to make jokes. Brian Kelly is the old dad that tries to make jokes because he wants to be one of us, you know? But he just sometimes he misses, but he really hit on the I'll give him this. He hit on the Coca-Cola thing. But how about that?
Blake, I want to say, by the way, I've been just before we get going, I have been watching you and Joe virtually every night eating dinner. Pause. But I've been watching y'all virtually every single night, Ruffino and Joe show, man. Y'all are doing a fantastic job.
Oh, thank you.
Obviously, when you do what we do, a lot of times the last thing you want to do is hear somebody else. It's like, God, I've been talking about it all day. I just don't. But I love it's kind of like watching an old married couple argue with each other. You and Joe, y'all's dynamic is just it's perfect. It's perfect. It's essentially you just spend an hour. Joe spends an hour giving his opinion so cautiously because he knows you're about to rip him to shreds. So it's a good time. I thoroughly enjoy it. I was literally just watching y'all before we did this. Yeah,
dude, I swear to God, sometimes he does shit.
You were about to jump through the screen on the Connor Stallions thing. I mean, I was like,
all right,
Blake's about to rip his ass.
Can we talk about? Oh, sorry. So you saw the documentary?
I saw it. Yeah.
Chris? Am I wrong here? Why do I feel like I'm the only one saying, hey, man, they cheated? Like, am I wrong here?
They did. I mean, listen, everybody's doing it, but they didn't. Not everybody's going as far as Connor Stallions did. Not everybody's putting together a spreadsheet of 3,000 signs, and there's not a paper trail of. I mean, I would imagine other schools have probably sent people to games, but they haven't sent them to like 20 games or however many games every game, like he wasn't even trying to be discreet. So
Chris, here's another thing. Him sending, there was chatter about in the document from the NCAA about like the Tennessee and South Carolina game being involved. There was chatter about the Ole Miss LSU game from last year. Like, there's been multiple things where teams lost that we're like, bro, how did you know that this was coming? And Chris, you here's the thing, that the problem that I have. You can't hit Tennessee and LSU the way that you did for off the field NIL stuff when on the field, like, this really mattered, right? Like, I mean, this actually mattered on the field. And those are the things that I'm like, bro, he's bragging about pointing up to the sky because he knew a pass was coming. Like, then explain play action to me. Because if you know that play action's coming and you're a safety, you're not going to bite down on the run. You're going to stay in pass coverage. Like, those are just small things that get
I mean, it reminds me, Blake, of the Houston Astros cheating scandal. I mean, I come from the school of baseball. I'm a baseball guy. I mean, sign stealing is part of the game. Is
no doubt
hot dogs and apple pie and sunflower seeds. I mean, it's just but the beating on trash can. It's like you took it to a level, and the walkie-talkies and the communications. You took it to a level you cannot take it to. So
no doubt. You know what the crazy thing about that Astros one? Did you ever see this stat? What was it, like Game 5? Clayton Kershaw threw, and all season he had a whiff rate on his slider at like 97%, something ridiculous. they did not swing at one slider that he threw.
Their home and away splits were crazy too. I mean,
right. That's the part that I'm like, come on, man.
But, I actually, after that happened, I remember I respected the Astros because I was like, if you're going to be the villain, just own it. And I thought Bregman and Altuve, they were like, fuck it, we'll go win it again. I mean, they did, and they did. They just kept winning. I respected it. I was like, you know what? Be the villain. Don't try to just be the villain. I even said this last year during Michigan season. I was like, and I got kind of ripped for it a little bit, but I was like, dude, as a fan, I don't give a damn if my school cheats or not. As long as they win, it ain't my moral compass. It ain't me doing it. At the end of the day, most fans will turn a blind eye if they're winning. I'm just saying.
Well, and that's the thing. The last thing for me on this, like I said, you can't hit Tennessee the way that you did. You can't hit LSU the way that you did.
There should be postseason ban, scholarships, the whole
no doubt. Yeah. And listen, I'm not that kind of guy that likes to say stuff like this. You're in Indianapolis, okay? You're a northern-based institution. If you're going to hit teams in the South before you hit a team that's close to you in the North, I'm gonna start calling I'm gonna start calling things the way that they seem, because you're gonna hit SEC schools worse than you're hitting them. Seems a little bit biased to me, but I want to go around the SEC with you because you're the man of the SEC Unfiltered. You're going to be at the Miami and Florida game this weekend. Now, can I tell people I'm going to hold off? Or does everybody know like where else you're going, or have you not revealed these?
I haven't, but I mean, we can spoil the LSU game. I'm more than happy to do that. Speaking of Lane Kiffin,
I will give you the floor here.
Yes.
You're going to be in Baton Rouge this year.
So for those that don't even realize, we're going on the SEC Unfiltered tour. My partner Prize Picks is sponsoring it. They're supporting it. They're endorsing it, if you will. So they're sending us all around the SEC essentially every single week. There may be a week or two we don't, just depending on the schedule. But, essentially every week we're going to be on the road. So the game, in Baton Rouge, LSU Ole Miss. We're going to be in Baton Rouge for that one. I looked at the schedule, and that one that jumped out, Blake. Is like that was the one. I remember you told me, you said, Chris, if you don't come to a night game, don't come. That was exactly Blake's words were, if you don't come to a night game, just don't waste your time.
Don't waste your time,
looked at the schedule. I remembered last year, revenge factor, Lane stirring the pot. I was like, this is going to be a wild environment. Got a place to stay already booked. We're good to go, man. I got a buddy down there in Baton Rouge, and obviously you and I have got a dinner date already scheduled at Pyran. So we're as locked in as locked in can be for that weekend.
Oh, buddy, you're gonna get out your car, okay, on Friday, and the smell of bourbon is gonna be swapping so much. Look, I don't think people are really ready for what's going down on October the 12th, bud. That's all I'm gonna say.
I've been to Baton Rouge once, Blake, and for the audiences to know, but see, it was during COVID. So, and what was wild though, I had a blast in Baton Rouge in 2020 when there were 25,000 people there. So I cannot wait. I can't wait. That's one of the trips I'm most excited for. We're going to some really cool games, but that is definitely one that's at the top. I think when we look back, I'm gonna be like, when people ask me what was your favorite, I'd be like, man, that LSU trip was hard to top. It's
going to be hard to top, I promise you. But you are going to Miami and Florida. I want to talk to this game about this game with you. You guys at SEC Unfiltered today made some of your picks, and you went with Florida. And I'm just asking, like, what do you see from Florida? Because look, I think that this game is going to be a field goal game. I think it's going to be really close in the swamp. What do you see from Florida that you think that they're gonna be able to take on the Hurricanes and win out here?
Yeah, and Blake, I think Miami is obviously really talented. I've got them in my playoff. I've got them losing this game and then winning out. So obviously, I think they're immensely talented. And I'll be honest with you, Blake, some of my Miami influence came from you, because I was watching. I was like, okay, they got Cam Ward for Heisman. You know what I mean? Like, all right, we're cooking something in Coral Gables. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
No, I look at this week one though. Cam Ward, this is going to be the most intimidating atmosphere he's played in his career. He's had turnover problems in the past, too. And
no doubt.
Look back the last couple of years, a lot of them have come early in the season. He struggled with the fumbles. I do think Florida defensively is going to take a step forward. I love the addition of Ron Roberts coming in, helping out Austin Armstrong. I like some of the guys they added along that defense. I think Pup Howard at linebacker from South Carolina is not talked about enough. Asa Turner at safety from Washington, veteran guy in the back end. Guy like Jason Marshall Jr. needs to play his best football. And on the defensive front, they need to be salty, obviously, and make Cam Ward's life a living hell and getting after that running back Martinez from Oregon State. And Miami's obviously loaded receiver. So it's going to be a challenge on the defensive side. And then offensively, man, I mean, I'm a believer in Graham Mertz, and now we know Montrell Johnson, he's going to be good to go. Billy Napier confirmed. I actually talked to my Florida guys a couple days ago, and we already knew that. But confirmed today, he's going to be good to go. So I think the running game's in good hands. Right side of the offensive line, we've heard some things. I think you've heard some things, Blake, and Miami's defensive front is for real. Big Trey Wilson game coming in, I think. I took the over on him on Prize Picks, 72.5 receiving yards. I think they're going to feed him the football. I think this is, Florida's been hearing about all offseason. Charlie check down, dink and dunk. Do not be surprised if Graham Mertz hits Trey Wilson over the top a couple times. Some explosives to loosen up that defense a little bit. I think they're going to make it a point. And dude, again, you're giving me Graham Mertz, not flashy, not sexy. I get it, but the guy was 25-2 TDs to picks last year, efficient as anybody. You're giving me him on his home field in front of Blake, what is going to be not just a frenzied crowd, a desperate crowd. That crowd's going to be nasty. I can't wait to experience. I've never experienced a Swamp, so I can't think of a game. I can't think of a game better to experience it. And, here's the thing, Blake, and I know y'all picked Notre Dame, by the way, not to spoil it, and I picked Notre Dame too. My other guys picked A&M. But everybody's giving A&M the benefit of the doubt. Like A&M's going to – why don't we give Florida the same? They're at home. I mean, the Swamp is – do we forget? I mean, growing up, the Swamp is – you don't win in the Swamp. It was like LSU at night back in the 2000s. Like you don't win in the Swamp. So, you know what? Do I think Miami's slightly more talented than Florida? Probably, but welcome to college football where that doesn't always matter and what happens on paper doesn't matter. And, if they played this game in week 10, it may not be close, but they're playing it in week 1. And I think there's a lot of moving pieces for Miami right now. And I'll be honest with you, man, if it comes down late to an in-game decision, do I trust Mario Cristobal? I know it's Billy Napier on the other side, but I mean, I don't know, man. So to your point, I think it's a coin flip game. I think it's super close, but I went with the Gators.
Chris, last year at SEC Media Days, Graham Mertz was labeled the worst quarterback in the SEC. God, was everybody wrong. And you know what, man? Billy does not get enough credit for the development and the play calling of the structure of how that kid played. The talk coming out of Florida, which is so interesting, is the number one thing that you hit on, which is why you're so good at your freaking job, is him forcing the ball down the field has been a big thing that they've discussed. And I'm going to tell you, man, that safety room at Miami now can be suspect. Mm. I think it's a field goal game. Here's the only reason, Chris, and I mean this. The only reason I went with Miami was mainly due to the fact at some point I just think that defensive line for Miami is just so freaking good that I don't think Cristobal gets out of the defense's way, man. And that's the part where I'm like, look, man, if you can't score, they got dudes in that front seven. So I think it's like a 24-21 game. And if Florida – look, I said this tonight too. If Florida wins, it'd be the least shocking thing that happened during the weekend because I think that they're better than what other people are giving them credit for too.
Yeah, I mean, it's both sides need it, obviously, right? This game kind of defines why we love college football. Because
what do you think I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say it's week 1, and both fan bases are viewing this, and maybe we could say the same about LSU, USC, but it's week 1, right? It's one game, but both fan bases are kind of like, all right, this is it,
right.
Hey, and if you tell them the season's not over, if I tell an LSU fan probably, hey, the season's not over if you lose, you're like, yeah, I mean, we know, but we better not fucking lose. Like, you know what I mean? That's all fine and dandy, but, and just saying, So yeah, I mean, to your point, I think that battle in the trenches is going to be key, but Florida, short passing game, quick passing, they're obviously pretty good at that. So maybe it can open up something else. I think having Montrell Johnson, too, is big in the run game.
I do, too. You know what else? That game against Florida State doesn't look as tough. In the beginning of the season, we labeled that as a loss.
Logo watching is what Blake Ruffino has said.
Yeah, logo watching. You can't do that. You can't just label that in. Are we doing the same with Miami? We'll wait and see. Let me ask you this before we move on. What if Billy Napier wins this game? What's the week 2 headlines going in for Florida?
Well, there will be an overreaction, right?
No doubt.
I think especially, too, if they win and it's a clean operation, Blake. If they win and it's still some blunders and special teams, I think you're happy to win, but probably deep down, Florida fans are like, oh, God, he showed us who he is. We know who he is. If you can have a clean operation, how it looks this year for Florida is so important, right? Because not all 6 and 6s are created equally, or even 7 and 5s, or even 5 and 7s, God forbid. So if it's a clean operation, Florida's able to obviously squeak out, let's just say, a 24-21 win. I think Florida fans are feeling sky high. And I think Florida, again, there'll probably be an overreaction. They might be thinking, the schedule's not as tough as we thought. We could win 8 or 9 games. But no, I think they'll be exuding confidence in games when I think you'll start looking at, man, we got A&M at home. We just beat Miami. We can win that one. We got Mississippi.
Yes.
We can start 4-0. We can start 5-0, whatever it is. UCF 5-0. We could go into Georgia momentum. Who knows? So no, this Miami game really is the difference between opening up all the doors of possibilities to the penthouse, from that to sleeping in the doghouse. That's
Chris,
big
they
of a
could
difference.
legitimately go into the cocktail party 6-1.
Miami, Samford, A&M, at Mississippi State, UCF, at Tennessee. Who knows? And then Kentucky at home. You tell me which of those is a definite loss after Miami. None of them. Even at Tennessee, who I'm high on. If you're 5, what would you be? 5-0 going to that game?
Going to Tennessee. And the get back that Tennessee wants on Florida after losing last year too. That's
Blake. If you want to get crazy, Florida could be the best story in college football this year. Florida has that kind of potential if they beat Miami and start to go on a run. And you've seen it, my guy. Confidence, momentum's a fickle mistress. And confidence for a bunch of 18 to 22-year-olds who don't know no better, it's dangerous. It is dangerous, man.
That's what I tell my wife. Once I get going, baby, you ain't gonna stop this love train. That's all I'm going to tell you. That's why I got 2 kids. All right, you mentioned Notre Dame and A&M earlier. I want to go there with you, Chris. I am with you, and I think I know what you're about to say. So let's get to it. Why can't we wait for A&M to actually do something before we label them? And then here's my other thing. Why are they favored here? That's the craziest thing. When you look at Notre Dame and A&M, how do you see this game playing out?
Preach, Brother Ruffino. Preach, Deacon. I've got Notre Dame. To your point, I've been saying it all offseason. Why can't we just let A&M overachieve? Why is that so hard? And listen, Blake, I love David Nuno, Billy Lucci, Ryan Broniger, the whole Texas squad. I hung out with them in Omaha. I hung out with them in Dallas. I love these guys. And I've told them this, and I would tell them this straight to their face. Dude, I've been a college football fan since I was 11, 12 years old, early 2000s. I have never known A&M being of a program worthy of the expectations that are put on them. They were great during Johnny Manziel. He was electric. But, why can't – it's year 1 of a new head coach.
Right.
And you're telling me in game 1, and I know they have talent. I know they have unlimited resources. I get it. In game 1 of a new head coach, they're just going to roll out there and it's all just going to be clicking. They ain't going to – it's going to look like year 5. Come on, man. And to your point, them being favored – night game at Kyle Field. Apparently EA Sports thinks it's the hardest place to play in college football. I don't know. I'll actually be going my first time this year. I think the game we're going to is actually A&M LSU. Talk about some hatred in the building.
Okay.
So, anyways, Notre Dame, I think, is a legitimate top 10 team. I think this is a legitimate playoff team. I know they got questions of their own, but I love the defense. I love the defense. And I need to see it. Connor Wigman going up against that secondary and going up against that defense. I need to see somebody in the A&M wide receiver room step up. And I know they got bodies. I know Noah Thomas can be a dude. Moose Muhammad can be a dude. I just need to see it with A&M, man. That's the biggest thing. I know Kyle Field is a hostile environment. But again, I don't feel like people are giving the same benefit of the doubt for Florida, Miami.
Right.
What are we talking about? you can't have it both ways. I know one game's at night, but so to your point, I'm right there with you, man. I just, A&M is such that they're the easy, sexy pick, home dog at night. Don't be surprised when Notre Dame gets that dub. That's all I'm saying. Don't be surprised.
Chris, you brought up an interesting point. I do think Notre Dame's got to figure things out offensively. Mike Denbrock, obviously LSU people know who he is.
Yeah.
He goes over there as the new OC. There's
Blake, not to cut you off. Who do you think has the advantage in the matchup of Riley Leonard against Mike Elko? Who they both know each other.
Oh, Mike Elko.
Okay. Because, Elko, there's a little cat and mouse game going on right now where Elko's like, well, he practiced against my defense every day. It's like, you sly dog, you sly dog, you.
Yeah.
Well, I think so too. I think Elko does too.
Well, I think he knows how to disguise what Riley doesn't like. And I really have a problem because a lot of Mike Denbrock's staff went from LSU to Notre Dame. And I've, kept up with him. I don't, him missing spring's a big deal, man. Like, bro, that's like Peyton Thorne when he went in the summer. Dude didn't get a rep until 3 weeks ago in a brand new offense. That's a big deal, dude. Like, that's a massive deal. They got to overcome that. Connor Weigman, they give me all the time.
They gave me hell too, because I said Wegman.
So how do we pronounce it?
I used to say Connor Weigman, but they said it's Wigman. So I'm going to say Wigman from now on.
Connor Weigman. Can we see him in against a defense like this before we crown him? I know he's a 5-star. I know he's talented, but look, here's the biggest misconception outside the SEC when people look at a team like Notre Dame. Here's the truth. There's not a secondary outside of Georgia in the SEC that's got a better secondary than Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Ben Morrison, Xavier Watts led the country last year with 7 picks. And you're going to tell me that Moose Muhammad and them boys are going to run up on him? By the way, I'm old enough to remember when Marvin Harrison Jr. didn't do jack diddly shit. So, again,
Joe would love to hear you talking about them.
Don't you dare tell him that I mentioned
it. He would love it. He would love it.
This whole episode just so that he doesn't have to hear me talking good about Notre Dame. But there is one thing that I'm worried about if I'm Notre Dame. Nick Scourton, new true freshman left tackle. That's where A&M can win this thing. That's where I have so much pause with Notre Dame.
Yeah, that's definitely for the Irish my biggest concern. I mean, I think you have 6 combined starts on that offensive line and a freshman left tackle and I think a sophomore guard. It's funny, though, and I think you might know our friend. He may be our mutual friend. I may be wrong. Brian Driscoll of Irish Breakdown. Y'all may have interacted. Maybe not. I don't know. Either way, he texted me, though, because he was watching our preview, and he wanted to point out to me that apparently the youngster that was starting, I think at either the guard or the center spot, was a youngster who beat out a veteran from last year. So they're essentially trying to insinuate it's not as dire as it may look on paper on the offensive line, but Jagasol going down, right? You're losing your top tackle. That hurts. So, and if Nick Scourton's as good as advertised, could be a long. He might be rolling out the pocket a lot.
a lot.
Right,
and here's another thing: it's not necessarily Scourton that I'm worried about. You got the Shamar twins, the Bash brothers in the interior and on the other edge. That look, man, they can send 4 and get home. I know Riley Leonard's a good quarterback. Let's see what he does. But you picked Notre Dame, correct?
I picked Notre Dame. I think it's a low-scoring game. I didn't bet anything, but if I had to, I'd bet the under in the game.
Yeah, the under's 46.5, man.
That could be a 20-13 game. It's going to be deep because I see it, man. And I took Connor Weigman on Prize Picks under 227.5 passing yards. Man, I think it's going to be like 2 heavyweight fighters kind of feeling each other. I don't think anybody's going to want to make the mistake to lose the game. So at least for the first 3 quarters, somebody's going to have to make a play. But I will not be surprised this game's 10-10 going to the 4th quarter.
Me either. And one last thing. I am not sold on Colin Klein yet, mainly due to the fact that he likes to go east and west. And you know more than anybody. Please go east and west.
Can't do it in this league.
You can't do it in this league, and you can't do it against Notre Dame. As much as people want to poo-poo on Marcus Freeman, especially on the LSU-centric show, you can't do that to them either.
Yeah.
Let's go to Clemson, Georgia. Some people have said that this is going to be a bloodbath. And I want your opinion and thoughts on what you think is going to happen, Georgia versus Clemson.
I don't know that it's going to be a bloodbath, Blake. Like, do I think Georgia is going to break Clemson's spirit in week one? Do I see this game being like Bane talking to Batman, where he's essentially torturing him, not of your body, but of your spirit, of your mind? Like I could see Kirby Smart kind of dealing with Dabo in the same way. Nah, I don't think I do have Georgia minus 13. I think the dogs cover. I think the dogs cover. I just don't think Clemson's got the horses to keep up, man. I mean, the only way Clemson, you keep this close, you turn it into kind of a fist fight. Clemson defensively, they're still one of the most talented defenses in the country. They've recruited really well there. How big of a step forward have they taken under Garrett Riley offensively with Cade Klubnik? Who the hell's catching the ball? I mean, you talk about mismatches in week one. I know we're probably going to get to LSU, and I know you've talked about it a little bit tonight, the line of scrimmage, but Clemson's receivers against Georgia's DBs. I mean, I feel like we might get through this game. Like, does Clemson have a receiver on the field? I mean, I haven't seen one yet. I think they're going to be blanketed. I like Phil Maffa, the running back for Clemson. I mean, I think they'll be able to run the football a little bit, but I think it'll be more like kind of bleeding out a slow, painful death than like the Oregon game was a few years ago. So score wise, I'd probably be looking at this game something like 27-13, something like that. I think Georgia will pull away late. I mean, I think it'll be a close game, probably going to the fourth quarter, and Georgia kind of gets that last knockout punch. And I do think there's a path for Clemson to keep it respectable, maybe within 10 points. But nah, I know the whole ETN's probably going to be out with suspension. What's the status of Smale Monday? Blake, let me drop some free game on y'all real quick.
Okay, drop it on us.
Georgia, since 2021, has played in 10 games in which they've had more than 7 days to get ready. Like, they're 10-0, and they've won 7 of those games by 22 or more points. You're telling me Kirby Smart, I don't give a damn who he's got suiting up. There will not be a more well-prepared team, a more motivated team, more fired-up team to go out and whoop whoever's ass is across from them on that Saturday than Kirby Smart's group.
Dude, you nailed it, because you know what Georgia and teams like Bama under Saban did better than anybody in week one? They didn't make those week one mistakes, right? Like, they don't make those week one penalties. And I agree with you.
And don't you feel like, Blake, a lot of it's probably because, not saying other schools don't do this, but like, I feel like at a place like Georgia or Bama, or like, number one, they've got a lot of returners. They've built up so much depth. Guys have stepped in, but also, man, it's the standard. There's a standard, man. Like, they practice how they play. They bleed in practice so they don't bleed in the game. Like, they make practice hell so the game is easy. It's a breeze. They practice against the best every day. It's like, when LSU in 2019, they were going to play anybody better than what they faced. I mean,
you had 3 first-round DBs, and that could be here for Georgia. And here, look, I'm going to tell you this too, Chris, and people, we're not as good in the interior defensive line. As someone that covers a program that labels himself DBU, when you can run out there and lock a team down when they're trying to throw the football, I don't give two Rudy Poos who you throw out there. All right? All right? And you know what? When they went out there in the spring game and Carson Beck, who does not turn the ball over through 2 picks, I'm like, y'all about to find out. Kirby loves it, and I love Josh Pate with all my heart. He loves that people are picking against him. Hey, man, they got us going 9-3. Y'all suck. All right. Y'all going to find out week one how bad they suck. Yeah. All right. We do have a question for you because I want to get to LSU USC last. But Chili says, Blake, can you ask him about Texas? Chris, what's your overall view this year about the Texas Longhorns?
Blake, I'm high on Texas, man.
Okay.
I've listened to you, and I think you've made some valid points on Texas. And I'll admit that the injuries at running back, when Texas has got to lean on somebody, aka Georgia and Austin, when you don't have a scholarship running back on your rosters over 205 pounds, I do question whether you're going to be able to lean on the dogs like you need to.
Right.
But I mean, going in the season, man, I've got Texas in the SEC title game. I think this is what Sark.
I don't hate that. I don't hate it.
I think this is what Sark has been building towards. I know the whole, and what's funny enough. Again, I tell you, I listen to your content. I heard Gordy last week on your very airwaves say that Sark's an average coach and he's won 8 games. I hear you.
Oh.
I hear you, but he ain't at them previous stops anymore. He's at Texas, where once you get the ball rolling and you can build it and sustain it. And I think this is a little bit different. So I think Sark will prove this year he's not the average coach that maybe his doubters think he is. And I think too, also, Blake, let's zoom out. The schedule's conducive. The schedule's conducive to the type of year they're looking for. If we swap Texas and OU schedules, brother, we're having a different convo. Like, you know it, I know it, we all know it. We're having a different convo. But the schedule is as it is. I mean, that game against Georgia is the big one. Hell, I had them going 11-1, beating Georgia, losing to A&M in the finale in College Station. Going in there 11-0. Because I think A&M is going to be very much this. I think they're going to be I think they have a lot of talent, but in year one, a lot of loose ends. You're not going to put it, hell, you're fighting as much a battle to build your culture and get everybody bought in as you are trying to put the game plan together. So, anyways, I think Texas has got a schedule conducive to it. I think the injuries at running back, I still really like Jadon Blue at running back. I mean, I think he was going to be the bell cow of the way. I think losing C.J. Baxter hurts. The big question for me for them, red zone woes hurt them. Their 2 losses. I mean, who recalls the four straight downs they're stopped against Oklahoma, and then their season, ironically enough, ended in the red zone against Washington. So can they be better in the red zone, converting into touchdowns, not field goals? I got them in the SEC championship. I mean, again, they got some questions defensively. I know, especially replacing the big guys up front. And can they stop the running? They're going to be testing the trenches. I think they got one of the best offensive lines in the country, though. And I think I want to see Quinn Ewers take that next step. Can he take over a game? That's the big question for me for Texas. Can Quinn Ewers take over a game when they need him to?
Chris, this is what's holding me back on them. Okay. Number one, can he stay healthy? I don't think that he will. Okay. And I hate to put that on a kid. Like, really, I swear to God, I do. But I talked to an Ohio State guy of mine. I have somebody that's very close to me on their staff. He wasn't healthy the year that he was at Ohio State. Like, if he had to go in a game, he missed 4 games that year because he got hurt. I think he broke his thumb or something happened with him.
Made of glass. He's made of glass.
He and that in and of itself.
Hey, the best ability is availability.
And
right.
And look, I love Arch Manning. I don't think he's ready, but I love him. The kid's from here. Chris, I don't go to high school football games. I went to 7 of his high school football games. Okay, because it was like, people, this in brand building. They're like, hey, that's Blake from AYS. He's, whatever. But I just really, I think that they can get there. I am very okay with being wrong.
I mean, they get through Michigan week 2, which will be a really interesting test. I've heard you talk about it, others as well. Listen, Michigan still got one of the best defenses in college football. That game can go sideways in a hurry in the Big House.
Very much.
But assuming they get through that, I mean, they got Red River, they got Georgia. Who else is going to push them? I mean, Mississippi State, Vandy, Florida, Arkansas, Kentucky, and then A&M. I mean,
who's going
to push them?
Here's the hot take. Very hot take. You ready?
I'm ready.
I think that Kentucky is going to clap some people's cheeks, and I think by week 6 we're going to look up and be like, who in the fuck is Kentucky? People don't realize how good that front 7.
Blake, I got Kentucky winning 8 games. I agree with you. I think Kentucky's roster is wildly slept on.
Dude,
like if Brock Vandagriff clicks, dude, their defense is all 3 levels. They got dude.
Maxwell Hairston. They got a deep defense.
Dumas Johnson, we just conveniently forget, is an all SEC linebacker. And then they got the human boulder and D tackle and Deion Walker. I mean,
dude,
bro is 3 people in one.
Bro, what he did to offensive linemen in the SEC last year, dude.
Man's ass goes from A gap to A gap.
No doubt, wide ass, Bear Jones type of ass. That man's got more. Yeah, that man's got more ass than a strip club. Okay, dude can play. All right, last one because I kept you a little bit too longer than I intended to, but I appreciate you being here.
It's always a blast, man. It's all good.
USC, LSU. Chris, I'm so worried about this game, man. Just because LSU defensively was so bad last year. And look, I know what people say about Lincoln. The problem is his worst year offensively was number 10. And that I think that's what worries me more than anything. When you look at LSU USC, what are your thoughts?
Well, Blake, I'm hammering the over. I mean, if I'm like you say, I'm willing to be wrong. If I'm wrong, it ain't going to be on betting the under in that damn game. 63
I know
and a half,
that's a fact.
Smash. I mean, I was like, I might throw another one on it right before kickoff just in case. I might double down just for fun. Yeah, I think it's going to be points. I've got LSU winning the game 38-35. I think it's a very close game. I do. I think the irony of this game, Blake, and I think if you tell me if I'm wrong, if this is Blake Baker's greatest achievement in year one in Baton Rouge, it is a success. I think LSU, are they going to be great on defense? No, they are not. But are they going to be able to get the stop when they need it? Just get one of them. Maybe two of them. I think, ironically enough, LSU is going to win this game 38-35. They're going to get that stop on the final drive that they couldn't get last year in Oxford and in so many different games. And I think they'll win a couple games that way. And that'll be that'll be the biggest difference. And I think we'll look back and say, man, it wasn't pretty, but damn it, Blake Baker was like what is the gif with the guy pulling the sword out and everybody's running at him?
Oh, the snow. Yeah.
He fought through. I mean, he just found a way to squeeze blood out of a rock, right? And I mean, maybe they're a lot better than we think. I mean, little birdie from down in Baton Rouge that I've heard on a podcast has said that they whipping Nuss's ass. So I take that however you want to take it. I'm excited to see how they use Harold Perkins Jr. I know you talked about tonight the line of scrimmage. I do not see how LSU's O-line doesn't bully USC's D-line. I mean, I got Caleb Jackson. I keep referring to the gambling stuff, but I got Caleb Jackson on PrizePicks over 49.5 rushing yards. He's going to have that in the first quarter. Like, I mean, I could see this being like a game where a couple LSU backs are like 7-8 yards a pop. I think there's going to be some explosives.
Oh, if that happens,
I think there's going to be some explosives in the run game. I really do. I mean, I think LSU's going to be different offensively this year. They're going to be more balanced. They're going to let Nuss throw it, obviously. But, like, man, you got them big uglies up front. Use them. And so I do think it's an offensive battle back and forth. Obviously, we know how important it is, and they haven't won a season opener in way too long. I think LSU finds a way to go into Vegas and get that dub.
If Blake Baker does exactly what you just said, I'm taking down this damn Burrow picture and I'm putting a portrait up of Blake Baker.
Just get a few stops. Just when you need a stop, and
let Harold Perkins loose.
Let him loose. If you're gonna go down with your weapon running wild, right? Like cut him loose.
Listen, I'm going to tell you a quick story and I'll get you out of here. I remember in Little League, they put my fat ass in center field. And you know what? There was a line drive right coming at me. And I knew when I was coming up for the ball, either I got to dive for it to make a catch we were going to lose. It was 9 and 10-year-old All-Stars, all right? And I knew if I didn't dive to catch the ball, we were losing, game over. And I risked it all. And I missed that goddamn ball. But you know what? I'm still proud of myself that my fat ass dove for it, because you know what? At least I tried. But here's the dumb thing. It wasn't my fault that you put me in center field, okay? It was your goddamn fault. But at least you go down, to your point, at least you go down with your ship. Burn the ships, man. Burn those damn ships. That's all I'd say.
Hey, what did the coach tell Urban Meyer in the Swamp Kings documentary? Let the motherfucker go. Oh. He said he looked at Urban, was sweating. He was nervous. Who was the famous coach at Ohio State that talked to him? I don't freaking
Jim
remember.
Tressel, Woody Hayes.
No, it was I think it was Woody Hayes. Whatever. It was before the national title or something. He's all tense, and he said, "Urban, just let the motherfucker go." And he said that was the thing that just let the motherfucker go. And they went on for just let the motherfucker go. Like, what's the perk? Just get there. Let's play a game called "I'll race you to the quarterback." I beat you. I bet I beat you.
My brother is coming down this weekend, and he's probably going to be here. If Harold Perkins gets a couple of sacks and a couple of key plays, I'm going to drop kick him like my name's Hulk Hogan. Like bro, when your defense is so bad like last year and you had that prolific of offense, it is what it is. You don't have to get into this, but he sent us a super chat here. Cody McGee says, saw a report Texas about Sark violating contract on recruiting, toxic locker room. I'm going to stay away from that, Chris.
I have not even seen that, so that's news to me. I did not know that.
It's about a player and family. I don't know how much.
Man, what can happen is every player has their own experience. So we'll just leave it at that.
Right.
That's a tough thing with a he said, she said. It's tough.
Yeah. Thank you for the super chat, but I can't go there. Yeah. SEC Unfiltered. My man is in the building. I'll actually be on SEC Unfiltered in about 30 minutes with our guy Dave.
I appreciate you doing that too, man. It's awesome.
Anytime.
We're content bleeding out the eyeballs, myself, Cole, Dave, the rest of the gang, and I appreciate you being willing to jump on and do stuff with our different guys and myself, obviously. Bro, I can't wait to cook it up, literally, figuratively, everything else. When we get to Baton Rouge, I pray for the city, and I pray for myself and my liver.
This is what I want you to do. Okay, last thing, I swear to God, I got to get you out of here. I want you to weigh yourself before you leave your house. All right? And then when you get home, I want you to weigh yourself again. And if you did not gain 5 pounds, you did not experience this.
Blake, I'll include it. We're taking this bad boy with us everywhere, the little GoPro. We're vlogging the whole thing. That's kind of the tour. And in closing, I'm getting out of here, I promise. The tour is kind of, I'm going to be vlogging the whole weekend. Man, really, it's an opportunity. FCCU, go to each of these venues, these campuses, interact with the fan bases, show love, and really use this bad boy to put it all on display. Like, we go to Baton Rouge, that video Monday is going to say SCCU Tour, LSU Baton Rouge. Like, this is what a game day is like. Big old just advertisement for wherever we're at, man. So it's going to be awesome.
No doubt. No, well, listen. Do you know what hush puppies are?
My friend, I'm from South Carolina, man.
Okay.
I'm from South Carolina, dog. I know there's probably some Cajun. I know what a hush puppy is.
All right. Well, listen, where we're going on Friday night, you're going to drive back to where your home is. Tell your mama, you're going to disrespect your mama and tell her that y'all should have.
Backhand. Yeah, right.
Yeah.